as for myself, I mean, 7 years ago, 2009 actually, ironically, I was, at the height of, you could say, my career. I was traveling extensively. I was actually rather disdainful of even getting blood tests and medical reports because I'm gonna live forever, right? And anyways, that's all very mundane. Who needs that? However, what kept consistently coming up is this deep fatigue wherever I went. And I said, of course I have a reason to be tired. I'm jet setting around the world. I'm doing this, that, and the other thing. Finally, when I actually couldn't get off the floor after a yoga class, I realized something was wrong. And I had to pay attention. And when I finally went and got the blood test done, the doctor, I'll never forget, Dr. Susie Lim, she stood up from behind her desk and she said, "How are you even standing? I mean, you should be collapsed on a pile on the floor," because my red blood cell count had fallen to dangerously low levels, that had actually, would have, as I put it, I think in my blog, made a vampire kind of shrink away from me. So I was immediately sent to a hospital to get a blood transfusion, and hey, thank you, I feel fantastic. I'll just go on my way, and my doctor said, now we have to find out why this happened. That was the gateway into basically my entry into what I term the Cancer Club. Now, it's a club that, hey, it's kind of a special club. It's a club that I don't actually wish membership, or I don't want to confer it upon anyone in this room. But we all know someone who is either a member of the Cancer Club, who has passed out of their membership, or who will one day gain membership into the Cancer Club. And because of that, I think it's absolutely vital to bring this disease out into the open. Because in my experience, a very, very large part of my healing, and the reason that I'm even here today, is the fact that I got a tremendous outpouring of support from other people. Yes, we have the resources inside to heal ourselves. But believe me, when you are spiraling downward into that dark hole, the cave of despair, it's very, very, very hard to find the light switch. And sometimes you need someone to take you by the hand. Sometimes you need a crowd. Sometimes you need a community. So as I said, it's really kind of interesting and significant because 7 years ago, today, pretty much today, I announced my diagnosis from the red carpet of the Toronto International Film Festival, which has become, of course, quite a renowned Shishi red carpet event. 2 months before that, I sat in a small office where a doctor finally pronounced the words, "You have multiple myeloma." And then he stopped and waited for the tears. None came. And then he repeated them, thinking, she's in shock. "You've just been diagnosed with multiple myeloma." So again, I paused. He I noticed like droplets of sweat coming down the side of his face. He gulped. He was about to open his house and pronounce it again, and I actually reached across and handed him a glass of water. I was like, "Doc, I think you need some water. You're not looking too good." So my reaction to this diagnosis was, I have to admit, a little bit unusual. I didn't immediately become grief-stricken. I didn't cry. I didn't show any emotion. And here's the one thing I want to share with you, and I know it sounds incredible, but I actually felt relief. I promise you, I swear. And I've actually written a blog about my journey, and I'm happy I did because I chronicled everything as it happened. I felt relief. The reason being, because once you know what you're dealing with, you can do something about it. You know, they say that it's only the things in the shadows, in the dark, that have control over us. Once we bring them out into the light, there's a lot of hope. There's a great chance and a percentage that we can deal with it. And at least those issues, whatever they may be, don't have control over us. So I knew something was wrong with me. I had just been ignoring the signs. As I said, I never went to get any sort of blood work done. I was very cavalier about my health, my body, my state of mind as well. So I dismissed anybody's suggestion that I could possibly be sick. Nobody wants to listen to that. I was in complete and utter denial until I couldn't be in denial. I was running away. And then I couldn't run away. I had to stop and face the facts. I was now living with a life-threatening disease. Truly, truly life-threatening. And the fact is, I do believe that there had been signs, a number of signs leading up to this, and I just ignored them. I had not listened to what my body was trying to tell me. It's incredible because our bodies are really wondrous things. We really contain everything we need to know inside us sometimes. It's just that we don't tune in. There are so many distractions. There are so many blocks we have in terms of fear, emotional blocks, shame, judgment, self-criticism, that we can't cut through all of that noise to hear the soft little voice inside that will never, ever lie to you. It'll never lead you wrong. Finally, I had no choice. So my entire healing journey was not just healing in a physical way. And I'm very grateful, of course, to the care that I got at Princess Margaret Hospital in Toronto, one of the best cancer hospitals in the world. But it was also a journey of befriending myself, befriending my body, and learning how to dig deep and how to listen again. So basically, very soon after that, I was thrown into this new landscape, this cancer club, where, I had some essential tools. I was immediately taking medication, very heavy medication. I was on very heavy steroids, so I immediately put on what I called my fat suit. I'd be like handfuls of steroids. I bloated 40 pounds. I was on chemo. I was confused, but I didn't tell anyone. And in fact, I was encouraged not to tell anyone for a number of reasons. And I'm not blaming anyone here. There were a lot of people who were looking out for me, trying to give me the best advice that they could manage. But they weren't going through what I was going through. They didn't understand. So I still remember very clearly my breaking point was I was slowly gaining weight, but I had actually had a shoot scheduled for a magazine in Toronto at that time. So I went, I got the war paint on my face, I was fitted, I made an excuse for why I had packed on a couple of pounds. I shot all day, I smiled. As soon as I turned away, I grimaced, and then I turned back to the camera and I put on a big smile. And believe me, this is not very different from how all of us conduct ourselves in our everyday life. It's just that there was a camera right in front of me. And as soon as the camera was put away in its case, I had to go to Princess Margaret and do my chemo. And because it'd been kind of cold outside, my veins didn't want to come out to play. So I went there, I sat in the chemo ward, again with my full face of shooting makeup, which is honestly up close. It's pretty bad. It's like a clown. And I didn't want to explain to anyone. I didn't know how to bridge these two worlds. I felt so incredibly divided. So the nurse, while she was poking me relentless, trying to find a vein in which the chemo could run into my body to help save my life, she couldn't get one because, again, when it's cold, your veins contract, and literally an hour later, she had to call in someone else, and they finally found a vein in, the back of my hand. Really, really painful. And I sat there and I decided, what am I doing? why should I be made to feel ashamed? This is nothing to be ashamed of. And if anything, all of these conflicting, confusing emotions, instinctively I knew were not helping me. If anything, they were a bigger barrier to me getting better. And ultimately, only when you know that your life is literally at risk, when you know it could possibly slip away, do you understand how precious it is and what you'll do. The lengths that you'll go to squeeze even a few extra years, days, seconds out of your life. So I said, this is ridiculous. For the sake of appearances, I'm not going to talk about this. So I went home that night, and I actually got a phone call very soon after that because I had a film coming out of the Toronto Film Festival. And they said, okay, well, I mean, this is great news, and we hope we'll see you on the red carpet. Then I said, now, if I was waiting for a sign, that's it. Because, of course, I had two choices. And one was to hide because of the steroids. I put on 40 extra pounds. Not the most comfortable place to be, especially when you are constantly scrutinized in this business. And, of course, not just in the business, but as a woman, I think in society, we actually are scrutinized a hell of a lot more than men and criticized. And so I could either hide and make an excuse and not show up and go into a cave, or I could actually use this opportunity. I could finally subvert, this basically, with full confession, deeply uncomfortable situation, which is the red carpet. For me personally, and again, because I have a lot of issues with it when it comes to the scrutinizing of women, the objectification, the fact that it takes 3.5 hours to look like you've just rolled out of bed, and the fact that a lot of people aspire to look like that, which doesn't exist in real life. But anyways, I said, finally, I can actually stand there and subvert the situation and finally talk about something that is actually deeply meaningful to me. And not just that, but multiple myeloma being